Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hi guys, and welcome back to another IBRACORP video. Thanks for coming back and checking out the channel this week. Absolute pleasure to have you as usual. Hope you guys enjoyed last week's video. We covered some really good apps and got the word out there to get more people on board with some great tools for their Unraid setup, with some great tools for their Docker setup at home, wherever you're running your server. This week, we're going to be looking back into the topic of reverse proxying. Now, I know on my channel for a long time, we've been using Nginx Proxy Manager. I absolutely love it and nothing has changed. I still love it. I think it's a great application. But in the interest of staying balanced and fair, there are some other tools out there. So it's always a good option to show some more off and give you an unbiased opinion so that you can have a play and learn how to use the technology and find out which one you prefer. So thanks to all the community relationships we have in our Discord, we've worked together with linuxserver.io, who are the developers and publishers of the Swag application, among many other applications that they also create over at linuxserver.io. Swag is the replacement for the formerly known app of Let's Encrypt. Now I know you guys might have seen a video on this before. We do things a little bit different here at IBRACORP. So today we've added some extra little features and notes for you to take note of to make Swag work for you. So if you're interested, you want another reverse proxy option to get you going on your way and getting your server up into the internet, with a plethora of features and advanced techniques, Swag can allow you to do so with relative ease. And this video might be the one for you. If you like what we're doing here, you like our work and you want to help support us, feel free to check the description. Give us a like and a subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. So without further ado guys, let's just get stuck into it.
It sound right, boys.
Alright guys, so thank you for coming back, and a long requested topic here has been Swag. So as it says here, Swag, or the Secure Web Application Gateway, formerly known as Let's Encrypt and is no relation to Let's Encrypt the company, sets up an Nginx web server and reverse proxy with PHP support, with a built-in certbot client that automates free SSL certificate generation and renewal processes, Let's Encrypt and ZeroSSL. It also contains fail to ban. So this is something that we don't get in Nginx Proxy Manager, which appeals to a lot of people to set up fail to ban. And for obvious reasons, having that sort of functionality is good. It makes it a lot easier for us to automate the moderation of people who are trying to access our servers. So definitely a big plus for Swag in that respect. And at this point guys, we're going to be following this through. Obviously I'm going to be presenting it maybe a little differently, but if you prefer to read as we go for it, this is going to be off to the side now and we're going to get into the install. Now the first thing we'll do before we start is check out your port forwarding. If you are using ports to get access to your network, we're going to be showing you how to have that running on ports 44301 and 8001. So make sure those ports are free on your Unraid server, or you're going to change them as we go along in the video. That's just what we're going to show you as an example. If you decide to change those numbers because they're not free, then just change them to whatever you've come up with. So in our case, we're in our router right now and we're looking at the port forwarding. So we're saying from port 443, send it over to 44301. As you can see here, sending it to this IP address, which is our server, and to this port. Apply changes and then do the same for 8001, as you can see here. Once you've done that, we've basically laid the foundation now so that we can start working on Swag. So hop into your Unraid server and head over to the App Store. As you can see, we're running the new version of the App Store, which has recently been released. So big props to Squid. It looks really good, I think, in my opinion. It might take a bit of time to get used to, of course, but overall, it looks and feels really good. So search for Swag. We're going to see the option there, which is obviously by the Linux servers team. And once we're ready, we can go ahead to click to install. Now I recommend that you keep the naming of the containers simple. Now there's a reason for that, because a lot of the time you can refer to other containers using the container name if they're on the same Docker network. So in that case, you wouldn't want a bunch of fancy little names. You know, try to keep it simple, exactly what it is. So then if you have to change or edit it anywhere, it's smooth and easy. First thing we'll set inside the template is the network type. So rather than bridge, we always like to use our custom Docker network. If you don't know how to do that, I've made a small video on how to do that with the addition of one step, which I forgot. In the video where I showed you how to create the custom Docker network, I forgot one very important tip. Come into settings and then Docker, and under advanced view here, you'll see preserve user defined network. So we want to make sure that's yes. Now you have to have Docker server stopped, so up here, and then it will allow you to edit it. So make sure you do that, otherwise any custom networks you make will be lost. And so we can continue with our template. The web UI is saying 443 by default. Now if you're following our guide, we've changed that to 443.01. Port 80 on the other hand, we've been forwarding that now to 8001. So we changed those numbers respectively. Next is our URL. So obviously our URL that we want to use, and we're going to go with a different one today. We're going to go with unraid.io. So we've got our domain. The next thing is validation. So validation, you've got three options there. We've got HTTP, DNS, or duck DNS, and it explains how each option works. For our guide, we're going to be going with DNS. The reason is it's much easier and quicker for us to go with the DNS option, which I'll explain later in the video. For subdomains, we want all of our subdomains to be covered. So instead of us having to specify every single individual domain or subdomain, we can put them here instead. To do that, we type wildcard, exactly like this. For the cert provider, you can just leave that blank and it will use Let's Encrypt. If you want to use ZeroSSL, as it says, you need an account, and then you can enter that information instead. For the DNS plugin, we're going to be going with Cloudflare. There's a whole bunch of different options they support, and if you haven't seen, we have videos on how to set up and use Cloudflare. There's a couple other options, so propagation, if we want to change that. By default, it seems fine for the Cloudflare option, so we don't need to change that. If you are using duck DNS token, this is where that goes. For an email address, we recommend that you definitely put one in here for notifications. So that way, the cert agency can send you reminders saying this certificate's about to expire. Then we have the only subdomains option. So if you have that set to false, it means that anything that you set up is only for subdomains. You don't want your root domain to be covered. And that could be in a situation where your domain points one way and your subdomain points somewhere else. For example, a different server. You can also use multiple domains with Swag, so you don't have to have separate containers, you can just have the one and update this parameter. So if you had another one, for example, you could put IBRACORP.io, comma, another subdomain, another domain, blah, blah, blah. Then you have staging. So if it's set to true, it will retrieve it in staging mode. So that means that rate limits will be much higher. However, they will not be valid certificates. And this allows you just to check that, okay, if I go to actually go for the certificate, it will work or if it won't. And if it won't, what's the issue? And the reason for this, the Let's Encrypt, for example, has rate limits. And if you hit it and request too many times, they'll actually block you for like a week. But in our case, we're comfortable with what it is, so we're going to leave it as false. So once you're happy with all that, go ahead and click apply. Now, while the container is installing, we can go on to the next step, which is setting up our Cloudflare account. And there's basically two ways we can do this, and it's really up to you how you want to deploy it for yourself. Option A is using DNS only. So what it means is it's going to be a little bit easier, and you're going to create a wildcard CNAME. And the benefit is that we can add a wildcard CNAME pointing all subdomains to the root domain. This means we will never have to add another CNAME to the domain while adding more apps to your Unraid server. So I'm sure you guys can relate every time you deploy an app and you're like, okay, I need to reverse proxy this now. I've got to log into Cloudflare. I've got to go into there. I've got to set up Nginx proxy manager proxy, etc., etc. This eliminates that one extra step. So if you wanted to wildcard, you wouldn't have to worry about it. And if you wanted to do that, so what we would do is create an A record that points to our public IP. So for example, we've expanded our A record. It's going to unraid.io. Obviously, we've got our IP address in here. You'll just set the proxy to DNS only and click save. Then create a CNAME. So type CNAME and put a star in here, followed by the root domain or @ Go ahead and click save. So by doing this, we've basically got a wildcard there. So anything we create at our domain with Swag, it'll automatically be working via Cloudflare. However, you lose on a couple of things. One, you don't get the DDoS protection that Cloudflare offers. And two, if your domain is well known, it basically shows your IP address straight away if somebody was to look it up. So the best option is always with Cloudflare on, but it depends how you want to go about it. So if you want to go with this option, you don't have to come and create CNAMEs for every single app. If you go with option B, which is the usual way, then we would set that back to proxied and then set up an app name for every single app that you're deploying. So in today's example, we're going to try going for Sonar. Now, the next step is setting up Let's Encrypt with our DNS provider. So in our case, again, we were going with Cloudflare. So to do that, we'll go to this little person. Once you go to My Profile, go to API Tokens, and then click on Create Token. Click on Create Custom Token, and we can call this, for example, Swag. Under Permissions, go to Zone, followed by DNS, and click on Edit. Under Zone Resources, leave it as Include All Zones. If you have multiple accounts in Cloudflare and you only want it to apply to the one, then just click the drop down and pick the one that you want. Once you're done, click Continue to Summary. Create the token, and then it's going to give you this token number, so make sure you copy that. And now the container's finished. So with that token we just created, open up a terminal window and type in nano. Open the terminal window and type in nano all the way to this file location. In here, we're going to see a couple of options. So as you can see, we've got the global API, or if we want to use a token. Because we can go with the global API option, we're going to comment these two lines out. Then come down here and uncomment this line. Remove the placeholder token that's in there, and then add the one that we just got from Cloudflare. Once we're done, Control O, Enter, and then Control X. While we're in the terminal, we now need to restart the container for Swag. We'll say docker restart Swag. So as you can see, the container is installed and it's running. Everything looks okay so far. The next thing we're going to show you guys is Docker mods. So this is something that I don't believe has been really covered, and it's a really cool feature of Swag. So big props to the Linux server guys for this. It's really cool. So Docker mods are some additional modifications that you can plug in straight into Swag and give it some more versatile features. The first one we're going to install is the Universal Docker. This is used for a few other Docker mods, so it basically acts as a foundation mod. So we're going to start with that first. Head over to your container and edit it. If you guys are curious on how my Docker looks like this and all these extra graphs, etc., check out our Docker folders video. Once we're in the template, scroll down and go to add another path port. In here, select variable as the option and just call it Docker mods. For the key, Docker mods again, followed by linuxserver/mods universal-docker. All in our guide as well, guys, so if you're following along with that, you'll be able to click and paste all this stuff. With that done, just go ahead and click add, and we're done. So again, we'll just click apply to allow that to take effect. So now we can actually add even more, and it's really easy. The hardest part was honestly just creating that extra parameter. Now we can just add them to the string. So for example, the next thing we'll show you guys is the Cloudflare real IP. So if you don't know, if you're using Cloudflare, sometimes the visitors' IPs are going to be showing from actual Cloudflare servers rather than the user themselves. So what we'll be instructing to do is tell Swag to give us the real IP of the person, not from Cloudflare. So in that case, we just edit the same string we've already put here under Docker mods. And for the value, right on the end, we're going to paste what we've shown you in our guide. Very important part is this part here, which is a separator between the two. So the more you add, you need to make sure you have a separator there. Once we're done, click save and then click apply. So after running that, we should have had a file be created called Cloudflare real IP. So what we're going to do is go to edit it. So we need to make sure that that file is included by Nginx so that it's used when it's processing information. So in the terminal again, we're going to edit this nginx.conf file. Look for this part here, which says HTTP, and then drop it a line. As you can see, we've added the 3 lines up here, which are in our documentation. Once we're done, we can type Control O, followed by Control X. Now it also pays to neaten it up a little bit so that you can actually see what it is you've added. So having a little comment in there just keeps it nice and neat. Once again, we want to restart our container, so go ahead and restart. The next mod we're going to add is auto reload. So as you've noticed, we've had to restart the container after making these changes. But what if there's a way for us to automatically do that so we don't have to do it manually? Well, there is, and that's this mod. So when making edits in the Swag config files, it's pretty annoying to have to restart the container all the time. These guys have got it covered and have made a Docker mod to auto reload when it detects a file change. So to do that, we grab the string that we have in our documentation, go to edit the Docker mods again, and right at the end, we'll add ours with the separator there with the new Docker mod. Click save and click apply. So now, anytime we make changes to a specific list of files, the container will actually restart itself and apply them for us. However, if you do have files or folders that aren't in the default list that it looks at, you can actually add your own. So from Swag, go ahead and edit it again. In the container template, add another variable. Give it a name, give it the key of watch list, followed by the directories or files that you want to monitor. So from here, if we wanted to add another one, we add that separator again, and then you can type another directory. And that works well because you may have a lot of custom files that aren't considered in the normal list, so then you can just add them yourself. Pretty cool feature, I like that. And finally, the last Docker mod that we're going to show you for Swag is the auto proxy. So the auto proxy gives Swag the ability to auto detect running containers via labels and automatically enable reverse proxy for them. Yes, you heard me correct. So we don't have to set that up individually in the actual reverse proxy itself. We can have it automatically done for us just by using a label. So make sure you've installed the universal Docker mod, which was the first one that we showed you, because it relies on that mod. The other thing to note is that, like we said, we want them all on the custom Docker network. This will not work properly if you are not on the same custom Docker network, so I highly recommend you do that before you continue. Now, this Docker mod uses the Docker API to locate new apps to add them to the reverse proxy. So we need to give it some more permissions. And there's two methods. One is pretty easy but less secure, and option A, which is a little bit longer but is much more secure. In the App Store, look for Docker Socket. You'll find it here under our repository. Click on it and go to install. Make sure we put it on the same custom Docker network, and then that's it. You can pretty much go ahead and click apply. Now head back to Docker and go into the Swag container. Click on edit, go right to the bottom, and we're going to add another port path variable. Change it to variable and give it a name. So give it the details like we've said here with the key docker_host and the value of Docker socket. Go ahead and click add. Once you've got it, click apply. So now the Swag container will be able to actually retrieve info from other containers, read only, but will not be able to spin up other containers or run any commands via the Docker API. So go back and edit it again, and under the Docker mods, we can now add the Docker mod for auto proxy. So go ahead and add that to the end of our list. We've got our separator, looks good, click save and apply. If you didn't want to use that proxy method with Docker socket, that's fine. Just go back into the editor, and underneath here, instead of doing what we've done, you don't install the other app. You just want to get it the easiest way possible. Click on add another path, give it a name of Docker API. So you can just create this path here, making sure we set it to read only, and then click add. Then, as we already said, you add the auto proxy mods, and then that will work. So that's the easier option, obviously, but it's a little bit less secure. So with all that nitty gritty done, let's actually now reverse proxy our first app. So find something that you want to test with. I'm going to go ahead and test with Sonar. So let's click on edit. And in Sonar, we're going to go to add another path or variable. In here, we're going to actually give it a label. In the label, we're going to give it a name of Swag with a key of Swag and a value of enable. Once you're done, click add and click apply and click done. So I'm not going to look at the logs, and I'm just going to take a stab at it and see whether it actually comes up live. So let's have a look and see now. We should see it at the subdomain, because as you can see here on Cloudflare, we've got sonar.unraid.io. Now that's by far the easiest way to reverse proxy something now with Swag, thanks to the auto proxy. But if you didn't want to use that option, the other option that you can use is via the configuration files. So open up your terminal here and paste the following. We've got to list everything in proxy confs and hit enter. And these are pre-configured files for all the different apps that you could possibly think of. So all you would need to do is take out the .sample off the end and have it as just .conf. And we can do this with command line. So for example, we're going to do it with Sonar. If I scroll down here, we'll paste this command in that's in our docs. So with the command, it's going to move it and rename it for us. Hit enter, and that should be done. Now, if you have the auto reload mod on, then Swag is going to restart by itself. We're not going to actually have to do anything there. If you don't have it on, then you'll have to restart your container, and we can do that through the command line as well with docker restart swag. But like I said, with our auto mod, we don't need to do that anymore. Now here's another cool tip you're not going to get anywhere else. We're going to show you how to enable Authelia using our auto proxy method, and it's so much easier than any other option you can think of. So if you have Authelia already up and working, and it's working for you perfectly fine, now you want to apply it to your apps. If you haven't got it working yet, we've covered it in our videos. But let's say we do have it going and we want to now apply it to our apps to protect them. So find the app you want to protect. Again, we're going to go with our Sonar example here. We'll scroll down, add another path variable template, change that to label. We're going to set the name to swag auth. The key is swag_auth, and the value is Authelia. You can then call it swag protection if you like, and click add, and then apply. Now let's say you want to bypass a particular path like we do with Authelia. You can actually do it with the label now. So if we go back into edit for Sonar, for example, we'll click add. And in this case, we're saying swag_auth_bypass with a value of /API. So anything ending in API, we want it to bypass Authelia. You can then click add and then apply it. So obviously that's a much easier way to do things instead of managing a lot of files manually. And the other thing is we've made those changes. Anything that's, changing in Swag is going to update for us automatically. So pretty cool. Now, if you've used the manual method to reverse proxy your apps, then you will need to use this method that I'm going to show you now for enabling Authelia for your apps. And that's if you're not using the auto proxy method. So open up a terminal and paste in the following, which is in our guide. And we've given you the exact template that we have on our guides there. So I've just pasted that in. And as it says in the guide, remove the hash at the beginning of the line where it says enable for Authelia. So right here where it says enable for Authelia, we just back that, and there you go. Make sure we go to Control O, then Control X. And if you have auto reload enabled, it will reload it for us. If you don't have it enabled, then you'll need to do the manual command, which was docker restart swag. That's pretty much it, guys. You have Swag up and running. You've got some extra tools and plugins to make it work really, really well for you. It's going to be a nice, smooth use, I think. And look, it's been a long time since I used it back in the days where it was basically all manual. You didn't have a lot of auto reload. You didn't have auto anything. And now they've made it a lot better. So big props to the Linux server guys. Thank you very much. Special thank you to Gilb N as well, who has written a lot of great guides, a lot of great articles on his blog, and works for the Linux server team. So big props to them. Make sure you check out their work. We really appreciate them. We hope you guys enjoyed that video. And it's taken a lot of effort, especially by Hawks, our community leader. We really appreciate you as well. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. There are also options for you to help support us in the description below if you so choose. We really appreciate you, and we can't wait to see you in the next IBRACORP video.